So my wife sent me this video of this person showing how to use a katana. Now I never give the names of these channels. Don't know where she learned the Iaido, but it was scary. Okay, so first off, how they hold the sword. She's holding the sword, first of all, choked up like that. This hand like that. Okay? We all know this is not how you hold a sword. No. That is how you hold a sword. In fact, it's not held with this finger or the thumb, really. Okay? These kind of float there. And you want that gap there. Okay? You can choke up on it if you need to. If you're going to take if you're going to take a hard hit, it's good to choke up on it. But other than that, you leave a gap there where that fuchi is. Okay? And then this hand goes right there. But don't do this, because this is going to restrict your movement. This is going to allow you more movement of your hands. Okay, so that was the first thing right off the bat. They're saying grip the sword like this. Okay, that is how you hold a katana. Second, and I can't believe this person said this, this will save your life. And second of all, the way they're standing, I can't do it because you only see my top half. But basically, they put their left leg all the way out, their right leg all the way back behind them. Okay? So, and then their body is straight like this. And then they say, block like this. Okay, so the problem already is, they're saying to have the edge up. No, because what's going to happen is if someone hits down on your blade is now chipped out. Their blade's probably going to chip out too, so now both your blades are locked together. That don't work. And now your sword is damaged. So, how do you block? Well, you don't block with the edge up. What you do is you block with the flat of your blade, so when they hit, you can drop your blade, which their blade will slide off. So when their blade slides off, you can turn and cut them. So that's another thing I found wrong with them saying that. Even in European fighting styles, they don't block with the edge of their weapon. That's what's going to save your life, if need be. Okay? So it's always the flat. You can even use the backside to deflect. Okay? The mune. But never the edge. Never the edge. Don't ever use the edge. Always, when you're practicing, so it's a flat. And like I said, even if you're like this, you let the blade drop. Okay? That way, their weapon slides off. So, then they emphasize on chop. You want to chop. That's what they constantly say. Now you're going to chop. Of course, they're holding it like this, doing this. I've done a video about this before. It's not a chop. It's a cut or a slice. That's what you're doing with the sword. You don't chop with the sword. You chop with an axe. So, they say if you're going to do a downward strike, which if you're doing a downward strike, let me drop my body. It's basically right above you, and then you cut straight down. So what they're saying is, put it all the way back behind you, like this, and then cut. Well, there's a problem with that. If you're right here with the sword, right above your head, you can deflect very, very quickly with the backside of the sword, if they're going for your midsection. If I'm back here, I can't deflect, and I'm totally open. So by the time I get this over here to deflect, I've been eviscerated. So I can't agree with that one neither. So there's already 3 things wrong. The grip, which, because if you choke up on any type of sword a lot of times that has a guard like this, okay, that's going to restrict your movement already, because your hand's going to hit it. That's why you leave the gap. There's no restriction. Tomo. Yeah, you didn't make it, did you? Anyways, the other problem is, the third one, block with your edge. Don't ever block with your edge. I don't care if it's a European sword. If you're in a fight and you block with your edge, you're done for. And then overhead strike. Never come back here. In my opinion, don't to chop somebody. Well, what they would say a chop. To cut somebody. And then they say when you cut like this, you want to bring the sword to almost touches the ground. So it's like that far away from the ground. About that far. Intentional, what we're taught. If somebody does that, and you know the distance, all you got to do is step back. If it's just going to be, you know, the Kasaki getting you, step back. And then after they do that, if the sword is that close to the ground, step on the blade. Because you're stepping on the backside. It's not going to cut you. You might even roll it over so it's flat, and now they don't have their weapon. So there's another thing I can't agree with this person. And then their stance. They would. Just imagine this, because like I said, you can't see my bottom half. Left knee's forward. Right leg is completely stretched out, a little bit off out to the right for balance, but completely stretched out behind me. Okay? And I'm squared up the whole time. I can't move very easily like this if I need to get out of the way. And then when they say block, they're in that position and they're blocking like this, so I'm still squared up. I'm totally open. I don't see that working. The whole point, besides fencing, because you move in a straight line forward and back, even European fighting, you step out of the way, basically, of your opponent's sword if you can. If you can't, you deflect it. But you want to be able to move out of the way of your opponent's weapon at all times. And you want to be able to do that a very quick way. If your back leg is stretched all the way out behind you, and your other leg is sticking out in front of you, and you're squared up, you might as well paint a bullseye on you. That's why in Japanese and European, if I block let's say I draw the sword and I'm blocking, my body turns out of the way. Same over here. I will turn my body. You want to turn your body, your upper half. That's why when they fight, you're kind of like this, but your body's kind of sideways because it's a harder target to hit. If you're just like this, which you can take this stance, but eventually you're going to wind up turning your body. Because like I said, it's a harder target to hit. Now, if you're like this, you can block like that. But there again, my body turns. Why? Because that blade can drop away from me and it's not going to hit me. And then I can whip around and cut. So, to answer my wife's question, yeah, you would get cut if you followed what this person told you to do. Because they were leaving this and their legs exposed all together. Even with their stance, with their right leg or left leg sticking back behind them. If you have an enemy coming up from behind you, well, may not have that leg. Or you could, and they can just cut your Achilles heel and you'll never walk again, or surely won't dance. So, the point of this is use observation of what they're doing. If it looks like, if I did this in a real situation, life and death situation, could I move out of the way in time? Am I going to wind up getting cut if I'm not able to turn my body? If all these are popping in your head, off in your head, you may not want to do it. You may not want to do it. Like I said, you want to be able to move out of the way at any point in time. And every time I take a step like this, whatever leg is closest, so I'm on my right foot points forward, my left foot points to the left, so I can step and move. It's like a shuffle. Japanese swordsmanship uses it. Traditional fencing uses it. European style uses it. And the reason being is because you're keeping your body sideways. Because it looks like my chest is facing you, which it is, but it's also facing the left. So I can always turn my body a little bit more if I need to. But yeah, I answered, after my wife showed me the video, she says, watch this. I was like, no, you don't do that. That's wrong from what I was taught. You don't do things like that, especially block with your edge. I have never, ever seen anybody block with their edge. I mean, not even with a dull sword you're not going to do that. That's crazy. Then I saw another person who was cutting one-handed. We all do it. It's not a big deal. It's where this hand was. Now, if you're going to cut one-handed, I try to keep, if I can, if I remember to, this hand here on my hip, or put it behind you. That's the best thing. Put it behind you when you're cutting one-handed. So you can, when you come back this way, you can cut and you cut that away. This person, their hand was right here. So when they went to swoop and cut, the blade would come up this way, I noticed. Now look where it is. That's not good. You're going to be called righty for the rest of your life if you slip. Always, always, like I said in my other videos, whatever this hand's doing, this hand has to be out of the way. Don't put it right here. Don't know why this person did that. And they're sitting there and they're swinging and they're making big swings and... Don't do that, please. Please, for the sake of your own, safety, don't put this hand here if you're cutting one-handed. And it's a good practice to learn how to cut one-handed. Keep it right here where your side is, because it's out of the way. It's out of the way. Or put it like Kingfisher does. He puts his behind his back, which is not a bad idea either. That way he knows where this hand is from this. Always, always don't put it here. This is a bad spot to have it. Very bad spot. Because like I said, if you're over swinging, it go right into that wrist. And it's like Eric is saying, I haven't been able to do it, Eric, because weather's been bad. You don't see me rip. Just let it rip. Just really go at it with full-on swings, which I can do. Because I do really short, quick cuts. Really just fast. So if you had to use it in a closed, confined area, you can do it. And it helps teach you control of the sword. With both hands or with one hand, it teaches you really good control. So when you cut, because when you cut with a sword, it doesn't matter what type of sword you're using. When you cut, okay, so let's say you're lined up, you cut, okay, you can stop the sword right here, right about here. The spot you don't want the sword going is behind you. So you don't want to cut and then it's all the way back here. Okay, the best thing to do is when you cut, it's about your shoulder, maybe a little bit past. So a little bit past your shoulder. Either to your shoulder or just a little bit past. A little bit past is more comfortable to me. But you don't want it out here. And it's, not only does it teach you control of the blade, but it also, it's a safety thing. Not just for you, not just for your sword, but if there's potentially people around you, like animals, little kids, stuff like someone who may not be paying attention, doesn't know what you're doing, it's not coming up out of your view, and they get tagged with the blade. So it's always good to be mindful and learn to really, really learn to control the blade as much as possible. Because I can sit there and line up and cut, because it doesn't take much to go. And it doesn't take much to cut something. Well, it doesn't take much to cut something that's skin. Let me put it that way. Our skin is very tough. But when it comes to a sword, it's not that tough. Swords are designed to push things out of the way. That's why I love using a splitting maul as a good example. If you watch split maul go into a log that you're splitting for firewood, it just pushes everything out of the way. It's the same with the sword. It's the exact same way it works. Does it matter if it's a katana? Does it matter if it's a jin, a dao, a longsword, a gross macer? They all are designed that way, to push material out of its way. So when it comes to our skin, you don't need a full swing. You just need 4 feet. That's all you need. 4 feet. With 4 feet, you can get them with that kasaki. And that kasaki will be enough to do damage. So yeah, I mean, I told him I'll do a video on just going wild. But now it's been raining and really, really cold. I don't like the cold. But it's not that cold tonight, so. But it's raining like crazy. So I wanted to share that out to you guys. Like I said, I'm not going to say who did this video. And they want to do more views, teach people how to use the katana. I really wish they wouldn't, but that's on them. But this is my opinion, I wouldn't learn from them. So, and then they're all, let me show you how to twirl the sword. Twirl the sword really, really fancy. Well, that's great and dandy if you're doing competition stuff. In real life matters, twirling the sword doesn't get you anywhere. It'll probably get you killed, but other than that, it doesn't do any good learning how to twirl a sword. You know, this person's all twirling it, and you don't need to. You don't need to sit there and twirl a sword and everything. If you want to sit there and make a fancy no-toe, that's fine. We all do it. We all do fancy no-toe. But for a battle, it does you no good. To learn how to use a sword, it does you no good. The only way you learn how to use a sword is by using it, first off, and 2, learning how to hold it, how to control it. I have, I think, 1 or 2 swords that are really front heavy. That are, I had one that was really unruly. It was so front heavy. I can't control that thing for nothing. Pretty much most of my swords, even though some are front heavy like this one, I can control it really quickly. Because that's what you want. If it's too front heavy, it's not going to respond to you fast enough that you need it to, because the front wants to keep going, and you don't want that. A little front heavy helps in assisting with cut, but when it's a lot of front heavy, you're not going to be able to control it. That's just the bottom line. So, learn how to grip it, practice with it, and for people who are just getting their first swords, take it easy when you go out to cut. Don't try and get fancy. Don't try and do trick cuts. Just work up to that. Get comfortable with the sword. When I get a sword, I handle that thing all week long to get a feel for it. Because every sword is made differently. Because every smith does it different, does it differently, even though they're made the same way. So that's my best advice for anyone who's getting their first sword. Get comfortable with it, learn it, and definitely learn how to do sheath and unsheath. Don't yank it out of the side. That's bad. Use that thumb. Use the thumb. Push it out. Push it out. Don't ever have your thumb neither on the top. Never do that, because that's where the edge is. Like I said, this is dull. It's not a big deal. But I treat this as if it is sharp. Never, never on the top. Always off to the right. Pop it open. and then draw it. The other thing is, don't ever slam it. And I gotta tighten this side up. Just don't slam it in there. Once you get right there, because you can kind of see, hopefully, you can see that gap in there. Then you take it and lock it in. So when it's out here, when it gets right here, take your hand, put it there, push it in, and that locks it in. Better example would be here. My Otonto. I love this thing. It's a little bit tight, but once it gets right about there, because that's when it starts getting tight, put your hand right here and just lock it in, and then it won't fall out. But don't slam it in there. I always see people do that. They're sitting there doing reviews, and then they take it, they put it in, they go wham, and they slam it into the Koraguchi. Don't do that, because every time you do that on the Koraguchi, you're whiting out that mouth from forcing it like that. Don't do that. You put it in. That's why you see in the Ido, they put their hand right here, and then they just push. It's like a gentle push, and it locks it in. Because now eventually it's going to get loose, but not as fast if you take it and you just go clunk. Don't do that, please. If you want the tension of your saya to last, don't slam it in there. You get it where you feel the tension, then put your hand there, push, and it's locked in. So that's all I have for you guys. Yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. It all made sense. Sorry, no cutting, because it's been raining all damn day. That sucks. So, and I would cut pool noodles, but my stand for that is outside and it is all wet, so I can't bring it in either. So we will see you guys later.